Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Borough Fan TV and the Monday Night Show. European Championships are finally underway, and the home nations have had contrasting fortunes over the weekend. Wales started us off picking up a hard-earned point in their opening match against Switzerland. Obviously, the Three Lions picked up all 3 points yesterday with a victory over Croatia, and today, well, Scotland maybe lived up to some people's expectations, but took a 2-0 defeat against Czech Republic. Get in touch with us, everybody. We're going to have a look back on the opening days of the tournament so far, as well as previewing the game on Friday, the massive game at Wembley between England and Scotland. We're also going to look back at yesterday's game at Wembley between England and Croatia. Got on the show with me tonight, I've got David Campbell, Joe Scott and Tony Guest. Welcome aboard, lads.
Evening, evening all.
And for everybody out there that's watching, don't hold back. Get involved. It's your show. Join the debate. We always like to hear your thoughts and opinions on the Monday Night Show. So, lads, obviously the tournament got underway on Friday evening, but probably the biggest talking point so far in the tournament, and probably what will be the major tournament talking point when it's all finished with, is obviously the harrowing events at the weekend in Copenhagen. Tony, I don't know if you were watching that game between Denmark and Finland, but obviously what happened to Christian Eriksen put everything into perspective, didn't it?
Yeah, I was watching it, you know what I mean, and to see a young, fit, healthy man collapse on the ground like that, and you know, the pictures were really unwatchable. It just shows you how fragile life is, James. You know what I mean, and pictures like that affect each and every one of us. You know, you've seen the.
Oh. Unfortunately, we've lost Tony there. Hopefully, we'll get him back pretty soon. I'll get him to go back on that question when we get Tony back with us. But David, obviously what happened was very harrowing for everybody. But the medics, the match officials, the fans themselves that were in the ground, they all deserve enormous credit for how they conducted themselves.
Yeah.
How surprised were you that the game restarted a couple of hours later?
Yeah, on first initial thought, you couldn't see how it could restart, but the players obviously got together. There was a conversation there, and Christian Eriksen was obviously talking and said he wanted the players to continue. So it can't have been easy for both sets of players with what they've witnessed and what in the mind, and it's a credit to both nations because I thought they dealt with it impeccably well, and just our thoughts and speedy recovery, and hopefully can get on the pitch again, but I can't see it, unfortunately.
But reading in the press, Dave, today, I think both sets of players had I think more so the Danish players, I think they had the thumb screws put on them, where they were given 3 options, whether to finish it on the Saturday, play on the Sunday, or forfeit a 3-0 defeat. So really, I think UEFA have come down a bit too heavy-handed under the circumstances, you know what I mean? They could avoid the game. They could have given both teams a point. I don't think that would have been unfair to the other teams in the group either. But what I'm reading in the press, I think, even though they spoke to Eriksen and they knew he was okay, them players still weren't in the correct frame of mind to continue with such a massive game. You know what I mean?
Guesty, so even playing the day later, it'd have still been on their mind, wouldn't it? It's going to be on their mind.
I think it'd give him a bit more time to digest things and maybe get more information about what's gone on with Eriksen. And obviously they've had to bring counsellors in and God knows what to the squad. You know, so I think another 24 hours would have helped the players get their heads around it instead of going out a couple of hours after. But it's done now. But like you say, as I was saying before I got cut off, life's so fragile. 1 minute he's going to take a throw to show himself for a throw, and within seconds he's fighting for his life. And fair play to the referee, fair play to I think it was the Danish captain and to the medical staff for, you know, bringing him round and keeping him with us.
Yeah. I was going to say, Joe, I was just going to bring you in there, mate. Do you think part of the thing with the game being having to the options that were so limited in what they were going to do in terms of playing it either that day or Sunday. Do you think part of this is because of the format of the competition this year, with it being all around Europe? Because Finland are playing in St. Petersburg, I think, on Wednesday night, so there wasn't much scope for a time frame of, say, give it another week or something, because they're all travelling all the way around Europe. Is this where this format's fallen down because of something like this?
Yeah, you've got to rethink of the schedule as well. I mean, fair play to the Danish lads for carrying on upon Eriksen's request to play in the first place. But going back to that, when I was watching it, you immediately think of what happened 8 years ago with Fabrice Muamba and in the Tottenham Bolton game. I think I remember rightly. I think they played on the rest of the game following that, and thankfully Fabrice Muamba waited on to make a complete recovery. But and then he had to retire soon after. But there's players like that who don't make it. For example, you look at Marc-Vivien Foy, for example. So it's kind of hard to watch. And you also look at that play for Sevilla, happened a few years ago as well. It's one of them things, you can't make out, looking at it overall. It's hard to watch, but it's just thankful that the players, like even the referee, Anthony Taylor, for example, he's been credited as the one that pretty much the credit was saving Eriksen's life pretty much. So it's like what Guesty said, life is fragile. So it's just one of those life moments that it's hard to describe pretty much.
Yeah.
James, I just don't think UEFA could have won in any scenario after that. If they'd have waited a week when there was on the rest days, it would have given unfair advantage to the other teams in the group, because they would have known what result they needed and stuff. So I don't think, maybe not a few hours later, but they consulted the players and the players had said, in hindsight, the mind won't have been there. But I don't think there was a win situation for UEFA. I think they were going to lose whenever the game actually happened.
Yeah. Tony, before we move off this subject, Gareth Cole's put a few decent points on for us to discuss there. He said about possibly players being trained, first aid trained, so if anything happens like that on the pitch, they can deal with the matter. Unfortunately, it's such a big tournament, there's plenty of first aid medical staff there. But he's also mentioned as well that Pep Guardiola mentioned that this sort of scenario was a possibility, especially following this season of all seasons, where it's been more or less non-stop football since September onwards, with all the fixtures being crammed in. Do you think in a way that possibly might have played a part, Tony?
Yeah, well, I think the first intervention was the Danish captain, wasn't it? And didn't he free his tongue up and, he made it comfortable. I dare say a lot of these players are trained with CPR and, they'll know how to use a defibrillator. But I think all them players know that there's top-notch medical staff out there on the touchline, and you could see that by the way they all responded by, giving the lad some room, forming that guard around him, to give the lad a bit of privacy. I believe everybody should be, not just footballers, everybody should be trained up for CPR, James. It's and after watching things like that, it's vital, you know what I mean? And don't forget, these lads have the best diets in the world. They're pampered to hell. They're getting monitored every day. And if it can happen to one of them, it can happen to each and every one of us. And like you say, on Saturday, that was just a flick of a switch, James, and he was nearly gone.
Yeah.
On top of that as well, I'm not sure if you found that out from yesterday, but I think one of the Holland players, Dilly Brent, had to come off near the end of the game, because we found out that he had some machine attached to his heart, because he had a heart condition in that. I just want to know.
He's got a heart condition anyway.
Yeah, he was mate to him as well. He played alongside him, didn't he?
Yeah, Ajax, yeah.
Well, lads,
Dilly Brent had his problem last season, I think.
Yeah. We'll move on from the Eriksen incident, lads, and we'll look back at yesterday's England game against Croatia. Joe, I'll come to you first, pal. Was there any surprises for you in the lineup before the game? There was certainly plenty of discussion about it on social media, wasn't there?
There was, in particular, I think most England fans will look at it saying, why didn't we start Jack Grealish right from the off? I mean, in the warm-up games, we know we didn't play Raheem Sterling because of his European commitments, and Mason Mount also So there was a bit of surprise, you know, with Grealish's performances in the games that were played at the Riverside. He would have been a shoo-in right from the start, but I was surprised they throw Sterling and Mount straight back into the team. And there was questionable choices in the defence as well. I played Kyle Walker. I think I would agree with the commentators on Kyle Walker. He had a shocker of the game, you know, yesterday. But I think Trippier did well. I mean, Mings did well. I think, and Stones did well as well at the back. And I think we look strong. I mean, I can't remember Croatia having a shot pretty much on target throughout the entire game, and it was a solid performance. But I think there's room for improvement. I mean, going into the game coming up against Scotland on Friday. Yeah,
and Tony, I mean, the conditions there, it looked, even just watching it, it looked like it was stiflingly hot down there, let alone to play in it. But I thought we made a really positive start, especially in the opening 20-25 minutes. And we looked in little danger at all throughout the game. But that first half, especially the opening part, was really impressive, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's when you really couldn't knock Southgate's team selection. I thought for the first 20-25 minutes, Mason Mount was outstanding. He down our left-hand side with Trippier. The only problem with Trippier is he's very right-footed, and we missed out a lot by not having a proper left full-back or wing-back playing. But then first 20 minutes, we had Foden, which pretty much was his only involvement in the game because we struggled to get the ball to him a lot during the first half. I thought he was very quiet till the second half, till he went looking for the ball. But yet, like you say, James, our first 20-25 minutes, we could have put them to bed. Yeah, we had the kids, Calvin Phillips volley. Any other day, it had deflected off someone and went in. You know what I mean? It was a great first 25 minutes till obviously Modric got his foot on the ball. But like Joe said, they were never a threat. Kyle Walker was bobbins. He was absolutely... His distribution was terrible, apart from the goal. It was him who passed the ball to Calvin Phillips, opened things up. He wasn't the type of player I thought would be using to be running at the opposition. And in the games I've watched up to now, James, the teams that look the most dangerous are teams that's got a player that's going to run in between both lines. Do you know what I mean, James? And take the ball with him. And, thank God, Phillips had that about him on Sunday, and we got the win because of it.
Yeah. David, just to bring you in, there was quite a few players yesterday that were making tournament debuts. You had Calvin Phillips, Declan Rice, Mason Mount, Phil Foden, Calvin Phillips. And to be honest, Tyrone Mings, and they all caught the eye. They all contributed, didn't they?
They did, but regardless of team selection, that was always going to be the case because it's a relatively new, young squad, isn't it? Yeah. What was really refreshing for me was the likes of your Man Cities, your Liverpools. I mean, Man City had a few, but Liverpools and Arsenals and Chelsea's. There wasn't in the squad. There's no loads of players who were playing for those clubs. You see in the likes of Aston Villa, Leeds, West Ham with Declan Rice. It's nice to see the not so big name players getting a start, and who it shows they want to play for the shirt. And I think that's really refreshing for England. And Southgate needs to take loads of credit for that. I mean, we were all talking on the show last week. We were all expecting a back five to start.
Yeah.
And then when he started with a back four and he put that extra offensive player, I think that's what the difference was and why we caught Croatia off guard. Because I think even Croatia, how they set up, were expecting us to play with a back five.
Yeah. Well, Luke,
I think that's the first time, Dave. David, I've read today. I think it was 1994. No, sorry, we didn't qualify. Since 92, where there hasn't been a Manchester United or Liverpool player in the starting 11 at a tournament for England, which, like you say, which shows the strength and depth at other clubs now. You know what I mean? Which is really refreshing, really.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
And maybe it's the way things are going, because I mean, I got the shock the other day when I saw the Spain squad doesn't even have any Real Madrid players in it, and maybe it's a case of now that national teams are getting cottoned on to the fact that you just play players that are in form. Really, that's what you've got to do, not people on reputation. Because I know that's how England have fallen down in many situations, isn't it, David?
Yeah, and the price tag that comes along with that as well, James. I mean, I remember Tom Huddleston signing from Derby to Tottenham for something like 30 million. And you were, at the time, you're thinking, why has he gone for that? And it's just the price that you pay for homegrown talent. And it seems to be going throughout the leagues now. Like you say, Spain, they're going for the low clubs. So long may it continue, because I think it's refreshing to see.
Yeah. And Joe, we'll go back now to one of maybe the established players, a player that's been around. I think yesterday was his 4th tournament he's been involved in, Raheem Sterling, but he scored his first goal in a tournament yesterday, and it capped off an amazing weekend for him, didn't it?
Yeah, I've been handed one the Harris Honours, you know, by the Queen in her birthday celebrations, and then topping it off with the first goal of the tournament for England. I mean, I think it's his first goal at a major tournament as well. So yeah, it's been quite a week for Sterling. So yeah, I mean, if he keeps up that sort of form, I mean, you can pretty sure he could be a very important factor for us going in for the rest of the tournament. And I think, like I say, you know, like what David was saying about the price of the squads, you know, from homegrown talent, I mean, the price immediately goes straight to your head, and that's what obviously downgrades from the players' form pretty much. But I don't think none of that takes back, you know, to take from the obviously from the whole squad put together. I mean, obviously Mount, Rashford, they came through like the academies at the big 6 clubs. I mean, obviously that homegrown talent is still there. So, I mean, obviously long may it continue.
Yeah. And Tony, bringing you in here, Michael Pellin's got in touch, said the tournament will get tougher as it progresses. I don't think performance is essential in the opening round as long as you get the points on the board and qualification is achieved. And to be honest, I thought we did that quite comfortably yesterday. It was a bit of we were talking before we came on air, a bit of an un-England-like performance in how we managed the game, and it was relatively comfortable in the second half, wasn't it?
Yeah, like you say, supporting England, following England for so long. First game wins are quite rare in any competition for us, but the manner in which we done it, you know, basically it was a typical Mourinho type of performance. You get your goal and protect it.
Yeah.
And I thought we protected our goal absolutely amazingly well. Like you say, it's modern football now, James. It's not good on the eye, but when your team's winning 1-0, you know, in the past, England at Wembley, right, let's go, let's get 2, let's get 3. But I thought we managed the situation really well. And fair play to Southgate on his selection. I've just seen a comment there. I think, yes, Sterling didn't have, you know, one of his better games, but he's looking like he's getting fitter and he's getting stronger. He might peak just right for us. And I think he was ready, about to get the hook just before he scored.
Yeah.
But, fair play to him. He had the desire to get into that position, onto that ball, and let's just hope they're all going to improve. You know, it's early doors. Obviously, Gareth doesn't want us to peak too early, so just onward. Let's just get qualified. But then we've got to learn our lessons from the World Cup if we do get to the last 16, and we've got to start and put teams to bed in the knockout part of the competition instead of you know, relying on the old penalty kicks.
Yeah. I mean, go back to Croatia. I mean, you have players like the likes of Rebic and Harris and all that. Modric, for example. I mean, I said I bet he got a look in throughout the whole game, and that's how tight-knit that Southgate had planned for that game. So I thought, you know, having them star players, you know, that Croatia had in their lineup, they barely even got a look in, and that's what made a difference throughout the whole game.
Yeah. I was going to say, David, there was 1 or 2 people who I was watching the game with yesterday that were maybe a little bit critical of England's performance in feeling that we gave the Croatians too much respect and we showed them too much respect. And instead of maybe going for the jugular and trying to get a second or third goal, we were a little bit wary and we tried to contain things. Now, it's turned out we got the 3 points anyway, but do you subscribe to that point of view, or is it just a case of just killing the game?
Yeah, I thought it was just killing the game and managing it. I mean, they did have quite a bit of possession, Croatia, but they weren't doing anything offensively with it. So we set up quite rigid and we're countering on the attack. But I thought we created some good chances and we were in control throughout the game, really. Just going back on what Guesty was saying, I mean, I agree with what you were saying regarding the selections. The group stage matches, I think rotation's key in the offensive places because we've got that much talent offensively. We're going to need to give minutes to people like Grealish. We're going to need to give minutes to people like that. So if we are needing them in the latter stages, fresh. Similar with Rashford. So I wouldn't be surprised if I see some changes against Scotland, and I wouldn't be too critical of it because I think it's vital that everybody gets the minutes into the legs now.
Yeah.
We need to find someone who's going to bring Harry Kane into the game and Phil Foden into the game. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I know he had his chance in the second half, Harry Kane, but he was, you know, even when we were in possession and going forward, he was very isolated. And when you've got a striker like that on the pitch, you need to get him involved. You don't want him. You don't want him coming back to the halfway line to get a touch of the ball. You know what I mean? You need him in that box. You need him between the goalposts. So I think that's something Southgate's going to have a look at as well. So whether he does look at a Jack Grealish who can travel with the ball to get Kane involved, you know, like you say, rotation of all that talent we've got up front, I don't think that'll be a bad thing because I don't think it's going to disturb, you know, Southgate's plan too much with what he's looking for.
Yeah.
And Joe, we mentioned at the top of the show about, and we've mentioned in the preview shows for the tournament actually about concerns defensively. But in fairness, as a whole and as a unit, yesterday the defence did very well, didn't they?
Yeah, they did. I mean, John Stones and Tyrone Mings did solidly well at in the centre back roles. I mean, obviously, when you talk about rotations, I mean, you got the likes of Conor Cody in there who can slot in. I think we saw how well both him and Tyrone Mings can play together at international level. So, if we do rotate against Scotland, you know, you can see the likes, obviously, like Grealish or Rashford, and probably in the centre back positions, you could probably put Conor Cody in there at some point, and we've still got Harry Maguire possibly could come in for the Czech Republic game. I think I heard one of them said, but I mean, obviously, like if we probably could start with probably Conor Cody and Tyrone Mings probably for the game against Scotland, or even John Stones and Conor Cody. I think I won't be surprised if that's the rotation that we need at the back, and possibly could change a bit of the fullback position as well, because I think Walker could do with Botman after that little bubble that he had that yesterday.
Yeah.
We'll get on to the long term there. Trippier at left back isn't the answer for me. He might have done on yesterday, but if you want to come up against the best players in the world, you can't have lopsided defence and people out of position.
I'm still a bit iffy with. I know he's had a fantastic season, but John Stones still worries me. You know, Pickford went long. Yeah, but Pickford went long a hell of a lot yesterday, which I don't think Southgate was happy about. So it looks like with the goalkeeper and Mings and Stones, I don't think there's that much trust there at the moment for them to play the ball out. And basically, for a lot of the game, Pickford was just putting 50-50 balls up in the air. So whether that writes itself against Scotland, which I hope it does, you know, I know Pickford's got a hell of a left foot on him and he can pick anyone out, but it was used a bit too much yesterday for me.
Yeah. We'll talk about the Scotland game.
Stonesy has me worried sometimes.
Yeah, we'll talk about the Scotland game and the choices in a minute, if there's going to be any changes to the team. Just a bit of reaction to what we've been chatting about the last few minutes. Gareth Cole said, we've got Maguire coming back for the knockout stages, and I think that's probably why Maguire's been picked in the squad, because I don't think he's really near his selection at the moment, but I think come the knockout games, he'll be back in.
He comes in, doesn't he, James?
It's what, mate?
He comes in unfit. That's my only worry when you start taking players like Henderson and Maguire. Yeah, they might be there for the latter stages, but they need 2 games to get going.
But then doesn't that point to how much confidence Southgate's possibly got in the likes of Mings? I wouldn't say Stones, because I think he likes Stones, and Stones has been the course before, but I think he's very wary about Cody and Mings, and I think that maybe was illustrated even more through the 2 friendlies at the Riverside, that they're not terrible, but they've got the limitations.
International class.
Yeah. and Damon LaRoche got in touch as well, saying about the fullbacks, and I think that's one area that will definitely see a change on Friday night. The left back situation where Shaw or Chilwell will come in, but we'll chat about that in a minute, lads. As we say, Scotland on Friday, so I'll come to you all one at a time. Start with you, Tony. Any memories of past encounters, Scotland, England?
Yeah, lots and lots and lots. Like you say, growing up in the in the 70s, we had the FA Cup final and the England-Scotland game were the only two, basically the only two live games on the TV. So the England-Scotland game was absolutely massive. It was huge, and the rivalry back then was, I'd say, it was more intense then than what it is now. Do you know what I mean? Because there were some right battles, obviously. I think, was it 77 when they tore our goalpost down and ripped the Wembley turf up? Yeah. I've seen Ray Clements, one of the greatest goalkeepers, letting one through his hands against the Jocks. Yeah. Like you say, they were just absolutely great games of football. Yeah. And that's when Scotland had a quality team and quality players. I think every English team in the First Division had a couple of good Jocks in the team, you know what I mean? And now with these competitions, we don't meet as often as what we did, but it just adds a bit of extra spice now.
Yeah. How about yourself, Joe?
From what I vaguely remember, I think the qualifiers, the playoff qualifier that we had for Euro 2000, I think I can remember. I think we won in Hampden in the first leg, and then we, I'm not sure if we drew or we lost the second leg at Wembley, but we ended up qualifying anyway. That's right. That's the first thing I remember of England versus Scotland playing each other. And then I think recently, it was we drew at Hampden Park, and then we had a game against them at Wembley, I think, in the World Cup qualifiers or Euro qualifiers beforehand, if I can remember. Yeah. So that's roughly my members. I did see footage of obviously the Euro '96 games. So, but my earliest memory watching live was obviously the playoff qualified for the 2000 European Championships. Yeah. Which,
like you say, we just came on top in that one. And how about yourself, David? Any memories of past England-Scotland games?
Yeah, Euro '96, where Colin Hendry got put on his ass by Gaza and scored that magical goal. And then the missing the penalty, and it was supposed was it Uri Geller said
Uri Geller, yeah.
Yeah, what a freak ball he is. No, that Euro '96 was an absolute unbelievable tournament, and it just showed the rivalry between England and Scotland at '96. And what Guesty was saying in the '70s, I'd love to have been around then, because everyone who talks about the '70s, '80s England, Scotland was second to none.
Yeah. I think in those days, and Tony will back me up on this, I think when Scotland used to come down to Wembley, they had more fans in the ground than England, didn't they, Tony?
Yeah. It was Wembley. Wembley was just a sea of tartan. It was like Scottish Week at Blackpool. It was like the Scottish.
Tony's gone again. The thought of it sent a shiver down his spine, and he's had to leave us for a couple of minutes, but. Yeah, he's quite right. In the 70s and 80s, Scotland did have a really great side. They got the World Cups when we didn't qualify, and that's where the rivalry was really fierce then. But it'll be no less so on Friday, won't it, lads? I mean...
Would you say it's still as fierce as it used to be then, James?
I think it is, because I think you'll see it on Friday night. I think it's never gone away for Scotland fans, obviously, the rivalry, and they're desperate to put one over on us. I think it's a similar sort of way to maybe how we view ourselves with Germany. And I think Germany maybe look at us and say, oh, yeah, it's a big game when we play England, but we normally always come on top. And I think there's a little bit of that with Scotland. I don't know whether you lads agree with it.
Well, I've been listening to Jim White all last week on TalkSport, saying how they're going to show the English what it's like to wear pride on the shirt. And after watching that 90 minutes today, if that's what he has to wait for, then I can't wait for the next 22 years before they hit another tournament.
That's like
a little bit of a streak of money.
Today's like being married for 23 years, you know what I mean? You've been married for 23 years, and you're waiting for something to happen which hasn't happened for 23 years. And, it happened and you're still pissed off, so it wasn't worth it, really, was
And then you get divorced a day later.
They must have been had the mindset watching like reruns of Supermarket Schleek, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. But go back to the 96 tournament, James. The last time we were playing qualifiers at Wembley, we didn't start that tournament too well either, you know what I mean? And I think the majority of the England squad were public enemy number one. The press were absolutely slating us with what had gone on with the dentist chair and all that carry on. And like you say, Jim White says, you know, what it's like, the pride their players have to wear the Scottish shirt. You know, once some England players pull that England shirt on Friday night, they've got as much pride and as much passion as any of them Scottish players have, you know what I mean? But the 96 tournament, we just built into that. We grew into that tournament, and hopefully we can do the same here with a lot of home advantage.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Joe, I'll come to you next, pal. I mean, after today's result for Scotland, and obviously our victory yesterday, obviously confidence will be maybe at other different ends of the scale for the two countries, England and Scotland. Do you think that has anything to do with what's going to happen on Friday night? Do you more or less put those two results aside because it's just a game on its own, or do you think form will count for something on Friday?
Might be a difficult one. I mean, obviously Scotland will definitely want to bounce back after what's happened today, but obviously we want to get we're at Wembley and we're at home, and we want to keep Wembley as a fortress basically throughout the tournament. But I'm not taking anything away from Scotland with the players that currently got in their ranks. I mean, you've got to talk about a couple of players in their squad in particular. I mean, John McGinn from Aston Villa, for example, being one of them, and I've always rated Ryan Christie from Celtic as well as being one of their key threats, and Scott McTominay from Man United. So we can't count most of their players out, but at the same time, it's a matter of being England being the main fortress of the tournament, and we're playing at home. Obviously, you want to win it, and obviously you want to get one over on your British rivals, so to speak, whether it's Scotland, Wales, or Northern Ireland, or Republic of Ireland. You want to get one over on your closest neighbours. So I think we need to go into this game, obviously, in the same kind of mood as we did against Croatia, and just hopefully, 3 more points. So obviously, automatically we'll seal our passage into the round of 16. So if we win that will go into our last game against the Czech Republic. Just needing to, by the looks of things, we just need to finish off at the top of the group.
What Joe's saying, it's going to be like Hereford v Middlesbrough.
You're setting yourself up here, pal. You really are setting yourself up. If it goes wrong, you're on the show next month, right?
James, I'm with Dave. They were shite today, mate. They've got right. He can joke and spout about McTominay, Robertson, but at the end of the day, they've got Lyndon Dykes up front from QPR. What a tatey. He was absolutely dreadful today.
Don't get me wrong, Guesty. We were linked for windows, so
to keep the Scottish, and keeping the tradition of Scottish goalkeepers going. They've got Derby's second string goalkeeper in goal for him because he saved the penalty in a shootout, right? And he got done from the halfway line today. Why the fuck was he stood on the near enough on the circle of the halfway line?
I have no idea.
He's got all round. What was he doing? Stood there. Someone said the manager has to take responsibility for his positioning. I don't think so. Why was his starting position so high up? They were. They had the chances, but the Czech Republic was shite. The Jocks were an absolute joke today, and if we're going to go into that game on Friday, I'm worried about them. I won't come on next Monday.
You just put your slot on, mate. You're definitely on next Monday, mate.
Yes, the position was so good, but his pace at trying to get back to his line was even worse.
The only thing I give him a 10 out of 10 for, obviously, is the way he landed into the net, right long before after the ball did.
Yeah, and it's like you say, Scotland used to have a hell of a bad name for poor goalkeepers, and like you say, it looks like it's still continuing. If that's the best goalkeeper Scotland can pick, bloody hell, away. I don't want to get too
carried away. Set yourself up for a Tomaszewski here. You might be the new Brian Clough. Calling these keepers clowns. It's happened before, pal. It's happened before. I know we're having a laugh about this, but this is a joke, but being a bit serious as well, lads, and I'll come to each of you again for this. Scotland, what's your attitude towards them? You've got some England fans that just can't stand them, want them to get walloped every game. Then you get some England fans that say, I'm not really that bothered. I don't mind them doing well. How do each of you feel on that? I'll come to you first, Tone.
Go back to 74 and 78. There were Britain's only representative at the World Cup, and I watched the games. I think I was about 10 when Scotland got there and we never in 74, and I think I shouted them all on in all 3 games. In 78, what was he called?
Oh, Ali McLeod.
Ali McLeod was going to win the World Cup.
Yeah.
Then they got beat by Peru, and it all went tits up from there. But as I've worked up in Scotland, when there's been an England international on. In 1990, when we played Holland in the group stage, I was working up in Scotland, and you couldn't watch it on a TV. It wasn't on one television screen in that country. Look, there's not one Scotsman on this planet wants us to win a raffle. Yeah. One doesn't want an Englishman to win tiddlywinks. You know what I mean? So I do not want Scotland to win nothing. Absolutely nothing. Scotland, Wales. I've been in Wales when England have been playing France at rugby in a pub, and they've booed the national anthem, so they can sod off as well. Not one of the home international teams do I want to do well. There's only one team from these British Isles that I want to see win, and that's England.
Joe, over to you,
pal. Tough one. I mean, obviously, we want to batter the home nations against us, obviously, but obviously at the same time, you want them to do well. But you know, I just think, though. I mean, obviously, depending on we got a couple of players that are playing international football and not even in the Euros, and they play for Northern Ireland. But I mean, if you have them in the squad, you obviously want them to do well. But so at the moment, I'm kind of like in between. Obviously, you want them to do well, but obviously when we play against them, you want to absolutely batter them. So I'm just kind of like in the middle, so to speak.
Damon's with you, Guesty. He says, I don't want the Scottish morons to win anything. Bloody hell, that's... there's Damon's call. Yeah. Michael Pellin, what do you call a Scotsman in the second round of a competition? A referee? I will happen again. I mean, how about you, David?
Keep them coming.
They're irrelevant to me. My focus is just on England. I think because all the other nations have been so poor in my lifetime, I really couldn't give a damn. I don't want to see them do well, and I'm not too bothered seeing them do bad. So I'm sitting on the fence with it, really. But when you come up against them, you expect a tough tie because they're putting in an extra 20%. But in terms of are they going to threaten us, for me, they're just irrelevant.
Right. Mm.
All teams raise the game against the big teams. Look how much teams raise the game when they come to the Riverside. You know what I mean? So
he says with a lot of irony. And Tony, I mean, talking of playing at a stadium, there's going to be just to say over 20,000 at Wembley on Friday night. Now, obviously, it would have been a hell of a lot more under normal circumstances. But even that crowd, that's going to generate some atmosphere on Friday night, isn't it?
Yeah, especially if you get a few jocks in there as well. It'll be, you know, I thought the atmosphere went a bit subdued the second half on yesterday. But if you get a few Scots in there on Friday, the atmosphere in them games is absolutely unreal. And it, like you say, it helps the own players. Plus, it also aids the away team as well to go stick 2 fingers up at the home crowd.
Yeah. I can only imagine if only what the crowds at the latter stages would have looked like if not for Mr. Balloon Comb himself.
Yeah.
And David, getting on to crowds and other things, what sort of a game or what sort of encounter are you expecting on Friday night? We know it's England-Scotland. People might say it'll be like a Premier League game, whatever, a local derby. But what are you expecting to unfold out on the pitch on Friday night?
I think it'll be quite fierce and then quite intense. I think both teams will go for it, and I can't see. Tactics usually go out the window when it's a rivalry between England and Scotland. So I'm just expecting a free, open game, to be honest with you. But I think we'll just outshine them in the end with just pure quality. They're going to want to come out and attack us because they need the points now.
Yeah.
So they've got nothing to lose in terms of that. So we just need to be professional and deal with that, and understand of what they're going to bring to the occasion.
Yeah. Joe, we've bashed Scotland a fair bit over the last 5-10 minutes here, but in fairness, Stephen Clarke, he's done a decent job there. He got into the first tournament for 23 years. I might not relish that after what's happened today, but still, he deserves some credit. And from an English point of view, it's not a given. I know Tony and David might disagree with me, but I don't think it's a given Friday night. I still think we've got to match them in the battle first before we win the game. Yeah,
obviously, I'm fair credit to Steve Clarke. I mean, obviously, he got them into the tournament the hard way. Obviously, with I think it was 2 penalty shootouts in the playoffs to get them into the tournament in the first place. But I think come Friday, I think all that respect obviously is thrown out the window, and obviously we've got to go into this game. Obviously, knowing, like I said, obviously a win will guarantee us a place in the round of 16, and regardless of going into the game against the Czech Republic.
Yeah. And Tony, Dan Shaw's been in touch. Thanks for getting involved again. Dan, he said, I think Scotland will end up sitting back, and with our quality pushing them back, we'll end up picking them apart. Do you think, though, there's any chance of any complacency from the England side, or do you think we'll be overconfident ahead of Friday's game? Do you think Southgate will allow for that?
No, definitely not. Like you say, what he's just said there, it might be the type of game. Watched Italy the other night. First half, they struggled to break Turkey down, but the second half, they found a way. The first goal, if we get an early goal against Scotland and then they've got to compete with us, I think we'll just blow them away. But we've got enough players in our team to take the ball, to carry the ball away. Do you know what I mean, James?
Yeah.
I don't think Scotland will sit that deep. I think they'll want to come at us as well, James, which they have done in the past in England-Scotland games. They've never been a team for sitting back against us. Whether that's Steve Clarke's way, I don't know. They suffered today. The reason they conceded the first goal today is because they never followed the ball out. And once the Czech Republic had them hemmed in, they weren't coming out, James. So it's up to us to be clinical and take our chances early on and put them to bed as early as possible. But I think it's going to be, like you say, it's England, Scotland. It's going to be physical. It's not going to be good on the eye sometimes. So let's just hope. All jokes aside, we need to come away with 3 points, James.
Yeah.
Whether we absolutely batter him or we get another scrappy 1-0 win.
Yeah. I'll go along with you on that, Tony, definitely. Gareth Cole said there's defo Sky Bet booking points all over that game. Yeah, I think there's going to be a red card in there somewhere. We talked when we were chatting about the Croatia game, David, about possible changes to the lineup. I think it's more or less a given that it's not going to be the same starting 11 on Friday. What sort of changes do you see happening?
Just 1 or 2. I'd like to see Chilwell coming at left back, and then maybe change one of the front forward thinking players. I'd like to see Grealish giving a start, to be honest with you. Declan Rice and Phillips deserve to continue their partnership because I think that can only grow. So I wouldn't expect wholesale changes, but there'll be 1 or 2 tweaks, I would imagine. I think it's vital we keep with the back 4, though.
Right. Okay. So sticking with the back 4. Lads, prediction time for the Scotland game then Friday night. Joe, over to you first, mate.
Going to win. I mean, obviously, like I said, we need to book our place in the round of 16 as soon as possible. So I'm going to go with a 2-0 England win.
2-0. Tony, no pressure here, but Michael Pellins said here, England to win 7-0 is 150 to 1 at the bookies. Are you going along with that 7-0, Tone?
I tell you what, I remember watching us beat them. Was 5-0.
Yeah.
We battered them. I remember us beating them 5-0 at Wembley. No, I won't go that far. I'm with Joe. A 2-0 win will do me. You know, like you mentioned, sending off there, James.
Mm.
Like you said, the kid who I seen get sent off today, he got sent off for 2 fouls, which were nothing. And like you say, we have to be really guarded against that as well. Because some of these foreign referees, you know, they're card happy.
Well,
but I'll go for the 2-0 win.
I'm glad you mentioned that, Tony, because that was one thing yesterday. I don't know what did you lads make of the referee's performance in our game yesterday? I thought he was a bit over fussy. I thought Foden's booking was an absolute disgrace, to be honest. I don't know. Yeah. What did you lads think?
Italian officiating, I thought it was. He was blowing up for stupid fouls and penalising needless bookings.
Yeah.
I think he was more card happy, I think.
Yeah, it's just his signalling and everything. I just didn't think he was that good, to be honest. But that was just my opinion. But so that's 2-2-0s we've got so far. What about yourself, David?
Well, Hereford Middlesbrough was 7-0, wasn't it, in the cup? So
we're getting started on that again.
No, I think we'll. Before today's result, I thought I was a little bit sceptical. I thought, you know, they might come at us, but I think I'm going with the lads. I reckon it's going to be a 2-0.
2-0. Oh, 3-2-0s. I've gone 3-1. I think it'll be 3-1 to England. But as Tony says, any sort of win will be welcome, and hopefully that's what we'll be chatting about on next week's show. Before we wrap things up for tonight, just a couple of things on the Borough front, lads. Not much happening in the way of signings, but a new shirt's come out. I don't know if any of you lads have purchased it yet. And what your thoughts are on the new top, Tony?
Yeah, I went down. I done the old click and collect. You know, it's the annual Father's Day present. You know what I mean? So the girls got me the new top on Saturday. I went down and collected it, and yeah, you know, like you say, typical Hummel top. Some people don't like the scribbling that's on it, which is a transporter, but I think it adds a bit of bit extra.
Yeah,
it's a bit different from last season. It's got a bit more white in the shirt, but yeah, it's a good Borough top. You know what I mean? And like I said, I think it was Dave and Joe last week. I just thought we get someone decent to fill them. Yeah. You know what I mean? That's the main thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, the good quality, James. You know, I even went round. I got mine from the West Stand from the Click and Collect, and I even went round to the shop and bought the young one. I am impressed with it, like.
Yeah. I like the Hummel designs. Like, they haven't let us down since they've come back. The only problem is when you play football in them, they're an absolute nightmare of absorbing sweat because they don't have the climate cool.
No, it's very thin.
Yeah, I'm still waiting for mine to come through the post. So right. But I've heard a lot of good things about it. I mean, obviously, a couple of Borough fans are obviously going to say it, obviously because of the betting sponsor and obviously the Hummel's logo and all that, etc. But it looks a good, decent shirt. I think I do prefer that one better than last season because I'm not really a big fan of the polo collar that they had last season. But obviously, I do like round collars. But it's definitely looks a lot better than last season, in my opinion.
Okay. I went down on Saturday, similar to Guesty, and I thought it was really good as what the club did with the click and collect and how they've learned the lessons over the previous seasons by putting in the concourse. Because over the last few seasons regarding COVID, it's just been a nightmare to marshal. And I thought the security guy who was on the club shop was fantastic with my boys, dead chatty. But we did click and collect, and you were straight in, straight out, and it was quite refreshing for the club to see.
Good to hear some positive stuff about the club. Well done, mate. And David, before we finish the show, I know you've got a few pals who are Hartlepool United fans, and big congratulations to Pools yesterday reaching the National League playoff final. And they owe a little bit of the Borough there because Brad James put in a top performance between the sticks for him, didn't he?
Oh, that save right in the final minute from Richie Bennett, who's on loan to him earlier in the season, was fantastic. And yeah, I know quite a few Hartlepool fans, and they were saying the same thing in the beginning when they signed him, saying he was a little bit dodgy, but he seems to have got confidence over, and I just hope to go down and get there as a result, because obviously I'm living in the Hartlepool area, and it'd be brilliant for the town itself, but for the North East football, we need to start getting these types of clubs, Hartlepool, Darlington, competing at the higher level just to make us competitive again.
Definitely. Well, lads, that's it for this week's show. My thanks go to David, Joe, and Tony for joining me. Thanks for coming on the show again, lads.
No worries, yeah.
Brilliant. We'll all be back at 7 o'clock next Monday night. God help us if Scotland win on Friday. It might be 4 different people on here because it might not be us if after what we've said tonight, but we'll wait and see.
I won't be able to get a Wi-Fi signal if we get these.
Well, all will be revealed. Let's see what happens. We look like the biggest fools ever, even bigger than normal if Scotland walk away with 3 points next week. But all will be revealed, as we say. Until next Monday at 7 o'clock, take care of each other. See you next week. Come on, England.
Come on, England.
Come on, England.
Come on, England.